So,
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Light in the
go on.
Darkness. Again, today we have Maria with us to help us along in understanding some of
Hi,
the
everyone.
process and what we deal with through narcissistic abuse on the female and towards the males. And a lot of people in the world don't understand that psychological abuse is actually a very massive thing that women will use against men. It's actually very common. It's a silent death in a sense, mental death. So everybody just, if you have any questions, comments, or chats, please don't be afraid to take and type in. We'll address them as they come. And in the bottom of our description, you'll find some links to, some resources to get a hold of Maria, find some resources as far as Facebook groups to take and find people that are going through the same things just like you are. And without further ado, how are you doing, Maria?
I'm doing well, thank you. And I think that, we've obviously started a lot later tonight than we planned because of some issues you've had, not just technical ones, but I think it's actually a good a topic. I know we're not going to talk as long tonight because we started so late, Ken, but, we've got half an hour or so.
Yes.
So do you want to talk a bit about what's happened with this kind of backlash that you've started experiencing again?
Yes. For this has been going on and off for about a year, in which I
Uh-huh.
actually reverse hoovered. I was trying to work on a relationship. I was trying to grow, fix myself because I was made to believe it was me.
Yeah.
And I believed it. So after I finally had enough and I chose me through healing, I knew it was a lesson and it was time to walk away. My ex decided that she was going to, she decided to take an attack at me and also at the same time play victim. In other words, it was I'd come on up, walk up to the vehicle, say, hey, can I get him out? She'd nod at me, get in the vehicle. There's alcohol on the floor, get the baby out, reach and grab my phone. All of a sudden, she'd barge and push me on out and then filed assault on me. So what I ended up doing was doing some gray rock. And I started bringing, friends with me. And through
Yeah.
all this,
I'm so yeah.
and through all this,
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. Yeah.
as long as she got what she wanted, because directly after the so-called assault that I had done on her, that was actually me, she had started bringing her father, in which, hey, that's up to her. She, if it makes her feel more comfortable, I'm for it.
Yeah.
As long as it's a calm exchange for the baby,
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
So after time, I started noticing that the things were going on in the background and there was some manipulation going on behind the background. There just wasn't
Yeah.
no honesty. There's a lot of anger. So, of course, I didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
So, knowing how the manipulation goes, the victim side of it, always questioning if that's what I'm really seeing, always all that stuff, I decided to continue bringing along a friend.
Yeah.
And
I
that
know. Yeah.
absolutely upset her. And since then, it's
Yeah.
been 12:30, 1 o'clock a.m. text messages. Why aren't you telling me exactly where you're taking him? I mean,
Yeah.
all these strong manipulation tactics and control tactics
Yeah.
that unfortunately someone with borderline personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder don't see in themselves.
Yeah. Well, they won't. But I think it's really important what you've said there, Ken, because obviously you have a child together. And I know how very, very difficult trying to co-parent with a narcissist is and the whole parental alienation thing. You're lucky because you have custody, don't you, of your child?
We have 50-50 custody,
You have
right across the
50-50. Okay.
board. So it's not, I can't go full no contact, which really is
No,
not easy.
in which case it's what we call low contact or, minimum contact.
Yes.
But one of the things I advise people too, if you start having issues like that, is to take someone with you, because that way, not only have you got moral support, but you've got a witness to anything that might happen. And they know that. And that's why she's really angry with you and pissed off now. And she's trying all this retaliatory stuff because you cramp her style when you do that. So it's really important to people, if they are in the situation, you've got to be so careful with them. And you want to get riled up because they start demanding, why aren't you this? Why aren't you that? Why aren't you the other? And I always say it's got to go back to the parenting plan. You have to have a rock solid parenting plan where the T's are all crossed and the I's are all dotted, because they are so difficult to please, but
Yes,
you've just got to realize I don't have to do anything that's not in the parenting plan, and I don't have to explain to them.
exactly. And
So
that was the whole thing that, I was, ignoring the text, just going full gray rock. I
yeah,
had to make a trip on up to northern Michigan and back. And part of my plan of rebuilding my life was getting my property, a different property, but go back after my dreams. So because I had made this trip up north, she got upset, and I should have told her about it. And she compared it to where in the state of Michigan, you're not allowed to leave state without consent of the other custodial parent. So
right.
I had looked at her one time and says, no, please don't leave state with him. It's against the law. So now because I went up north, the manipulation tactic is you are trying to control me. You're trying to tell me what to do, Ken. And here you to turn around and you go up north and you don't tell me where you're going. And it's
But did you
all
take your son? You didn't take your son up north with you, did you?
oh, I took him. I took him. I'm in the
Oh,
state.
you
I can
did.
take him
Okay.
anywhere. Actually, my custody order states that I can drive or that I can live and reside up there, and that's
Okay.
the whole
So
thing.
so it's in your custody order, and you're not breaking any law in terms of your parenting plan.
Correct. And in the state of Michigan, you can go anywhere in the state. You
Right.
don't have to address the other parent if you're going to a water park in the state or any of that stuff.
Right.
However, if you
Yeah.
cross state lines, that's a different story. Now they can
Right.
actually, it's considered parental kidnapping.
Right.
So,
Right.
and a large trip like that, where they're going out of state, you should be informing your other parent and getting
Yeah.
approval and so
Yeah.
on. And if not, then you go to the court and let them know, hey, this is what I'm aiming to do, and this is
Yeah.
my route, my itinerary, and go from there. And then
Yeah.
if they approve, you
Yeah,
go.
absolutely. I would absolutely say that's solid advice because, as you've just said, Ken, if you go out of state without permission, they will slap you with a child kidnapping order, and you could be in jail before you've had time to even draw breath and explain what's going on. So it is not a risk worth taking. So if you have to do anything that's outside the bounds of the custody, outside of the parenting plan, you need it in writing. You need it rock solid. And you
Yeah.
cannot take you because you could say to her, okay, I'm going to take him out of state on such and such a date. And she could say, okay, that's fine. And you think, great. And off you swan. And the next thing you're hit with the same kidnapping. And they'll do this. You know
Yep.
they will because they're twisted and manipulative. So you cannot trust them
Exactly. And that's why
ever.
you always need to bring somebody. Another tactic she tried yesterday when I picked up my son, like I said, I brought a friend. So of course that went against what she wanted because I chose myself. I chose my boundaries. I chose that kind of thing. And the first thing she said to me was, "Well, I guess if you're going to do that, and it's not in the best interest of her son, then when I go on trips, and I got to go to work out of state, I'm just not going to let him have you." Or take him to you. And I'm sitting here going, this is a manipulation and control tactic. The
Yeah.
best thing
Yeah.
for him, if you're going to go that far away out of state and you can't take him, is to put him with his dad. As much time with mom
Yeah.
or
Of course.
dad versus a babysitter is in the best interest and well-being of the child. But the
Yeah. Of course.
leverage and the manipulation she used in the verbiage, it was, I'm sitting here in awe, and the whole time she's the victim. I'm not
Oh, yeah.
understanding. I've
Yeah.
never loved her. I was never,
Yeah.
this. I was never that. I'm not working on myself. All these
Yeah.
things.
And this is the kind of thing they will do. And as you said, it's the verbiage, it's the word salad, it's the bullshit, bullshit, bullshit that they could go on and on and on till the cows come home with. But what you've got to do, and why it upsets so many people, is people take it to heart.
Yes.
And then they start getting all emotionally scrambled up inside and, oh, blah, blah, it's me. And I should have. No. When you get to that stage, you've left and you know that you're dealing with a narcissist, you have to basically emotionally detach. You've got to shut yourself down from anything they say or do because it has to be completely irrelevant to you. And when you are at that point, you know that it's just like it's words hitting a board and just falling to the ground because
Yes.
it's just white noise.
And the bad thing
That way it
is,
can't
they
penetrate,
take this,
your emotional shell.
and
Yeah.
she didn't see the disrespect. Now, see, probably 4 or 5 days prior to that, I had allowed her to trigger me a little bit. And it was one of them deals where, I finally pulled it back and I gave her time to speak and all that stuff. And I turn around at the very end and I'm like, wait a minute, Ken, what are you doing? So I took
Yeah.
and pulled all myself back. It was like, I'm done. I'm over it. I'm not doing this, because it had gotten heated a couple of times, but she had calmed down. And I had even sat there speaking 100% truth. Look, I love you. I know in a sense you love me, but it will never be again. It's time to let go. Because I knew
Yeah.
that the control tactic was a toxic style love attachment towards me, plus control, plus all these things that if they're not willing to go get help, it'll never get nowhere.
Which they're not, because narcissists, it's a fundamental part of the characteristic. They don't think there's anything wrong with them. There's that grandiosity and those things we've talked about in previous podcasts, Ken, that
Yes.
they just think, they're superior to everyone else.
Yes.
And the only time they do go is if they're forced to by court mandated, or they have to go for a psych eval. Maybe they go to the doctor with depression or whatever.
Well, the big thing I find what they do then is they're so good at manipulating, especially, I hate to say it, and I am really not a womanizing guy, and this is the thing that really hurts me throughout all this stuff, is I am a very caring, loving guy. I've always have been. Women are some of the most amazing creatures on the face of this earth. They are strong in their own way and just magical. And you run across a situation like this, and it just tears you apart. So, the manipulation tactics they use with their friends, your friends, and the little bits, and then of course the things that the secrets that you opened up with them about your past, and anything that you may have done wrong that they have proof with, they try to use that against you to destroy you and all these things. And it's one of those deals where it don't build trust. It's coming. You're always watching your back. You don't know who you can turn to. It's bad.
Yeah, it is. And that's unfortunately just how they are. And most people don't realize it until it's way too late in the relationship.
Yes.
And they've got to start to unravel it. So many people, as you know, can come to, to my group, or they come to message me, or they come to work with me, and they're like, I can't believe these type of people exist, and maybe it's me, maybe I'm the narcissist. I've heard that. So in fact, I hear it with shocking regularity.
And you heard it from me many times, I think.
Yeah, because you've been so brainwashed by the narcissist, and you've tried so hard to do everything you can to make them happy, and when it still doesn't work and they bounce it all back at you, well, it's your fault. You're not enough of this, or you're too much of that, and nothing you do is good enough.
Yes.
And you end up just feeling less and less of yourself.
Well, one of the things
all of that core you is just stripped away. And this is why people come to me. They're like, I need to get my old self back. I look in the mirror and I don't know who I am anymore.
Yeah, and it's actually all in us that has to do the repair to stop this from repeating. It's funny. I used to be one of those guys, and she made me question my abilities. And this is one of the tactics she used for me. In everyday life, when we're dealing with people, if we turn around and have had our trust broken and we enter back in to try to retrust somebody, it's not instantaneous. So, for instance, what would happen with my ex is over this period of time, and this is where the brainwashing came in, she'd constantly break my trust and then use words like, I wake up every day retrusting you. And in my head, I'm going, wait a minute, I don't really do that kind of thing. I might have different flaws here and there that I work on, but I do show constant and steady improvement. Some of them I haven't reached and addressed yet, because you can't do them all at one time. Sometimes there's just not enough in you. But this person would literally, for instance, she cheated on me like 4 different times, ended up in a drug deal where each and every time I had to play private investigator to get the proof. I'd walk up beforehand, ask about the situation. I'd get an absolute lie. She'd pull up her Facebook, and sure enough, on her phone, all the stuff was gone. But I was already keen enough to screenshot and take pictures of things before it disappeared. So I'd turn around and say, why are you lying to me? I'm not. Then I'd show the proof in instant anger. Because she lied to me, she's mad at me. Meanwhile, she's like, I don't know how you do this. You're violating my privacy. It's
there you go.
The manipulation.
Yeah, and that's the classic way they have of twisting everything around as well. And yet they can do that to you, and that would be absolutely fine. So you've always got to be aware of those massive, massive double standards, because they all have them. It's one set of rules for them and one set of rules for everybody else.
Yes.
They can basically do what the hell they like. but you can't. You've got to just fit into their little, shoehorned into whatever box they want you to be in.
It's funny you say that, because mine used to literally, and I thought it was a joke for the longest time. I thought it was cute, but come to find out, she was actually speaking truth. She'd go to do something, I'd say, honey, that's not good. And I do what I want. And I'm sitting here going, okay, well, and she, ha, 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 ha. Meanwhile, that's exactly what she's doing. She's doing what she wants.
Yeah.
She's literally telling on herself.
They do.
It's that psychological projection portion. And it's one thing I learned is if you want to know what's going on with them, they'll tell on themselves. Everything that they're telling you that they don't do is exactly what they're doing.
And everything they're accusing you of is usually a good indicator as well, because it's almost like they have this massive guilty conscience, except it's not a guilty conscience per se in the way it would be with a normal person. But it's like, and this happens with so many narcissists, it's bizarre that they have to accuse you of cheating or spying on them, or you might pick up their phone accidentally just to move it off the countertop, and all of a sudden if they catch you, they're like, oh, you're spying, you're invading my privacy, and you'll be like, what? Because that's what they would do.
Here's the way I've always looked at it when it comes to this thing, and I know this younger generation looks at it different. They want just blind trust, and it kind of shows the mental portions of the way these younger generations are. But if I'm with somebody, I've lost a portion of my privacy. I've surrendered it. In other words, I have nothing to hide on my phone. If you feel insecure for the moment, I don't want you to feel that. Just go pick it up.
Somebody mentioned in the group the other day about, or messaged me, I can't remember now, but it was something about looking at somebody else's phone. Now, as far as I'm concerned, this is my privacy. This is my personal privacy. Mm-hmm. And I don't have anything to hide either.
Yeah.
And to me, it's the same as when you have a diary back in the day and you'd write in your diary. To me, it's an absolute no-no is to read somebody else's diary.
See, for me, I can understand that, because diary takes in deep thoughts, all these things and so on. But to a phone, to me, it's like, how you want to put it? I don't have nothing to hide. If I need to go talk to somebody about my situation, I'm going to come to you and say, hey, I'm going to come to you first, try to talk, and then I'm going to take a step away if it's okay and let them know, so they don't think that I'm sneaking around, and say, hey, I go talk to my person. And if they need to see what it's about, they need reassurance. Literally, to me, it's a bunch of phone numbers, Facebook account, couple of texts, stuff like that. Yeah. And to me, I mean, unless you're in business where you have, this is the part where I can see the privacy, bank account numbers, amounts, those kind of things, crucial other portions. But for me, when I was in my marriage, I gave her my password to my Facebook. I gave her we had shared all that stuff. And
so many people do. Yeah. And that to me is it's such a big, big mistake. Of course, when you're with someone and you love them and you're married to them or you have children with them, you trust them.
Yeah. And the thing was, it was actually her idea to do it that way. And because I was so
I bet it was.
Yeah. Because I was so I had nothing to hide. And I didn't, I was all about my family, all about her. Yeah. If I had a friend that was a female that made her feel uncomfortable, it was done. If they crossed that line, it was done, because I choose my person first. That's my family. That's my future. And that's the way it was. But it is funny because that didn't reciprocate. Now with my ex, she'd have toxic exes from her past that would communicate that she had no attachments to, no kids, no nothing. And these people would take and hit her on up talking about their sexual past. You remember when we did this, and every time we get around each other, this happens. And then I'd turn around and go speak about it, and I was made to believe that I was insecure. And I'm sitting here.
Yeah, and that's just inappropriate behavior. I mean, let's face it, it's inappropriate, but they'll think it's okay to do that because they want to do what they want to do.
Exactly.
And it always comes back to
you into believing it's okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it always comes back to the double standards that they have. So if you're seeing all these double standards and you're not sure, is this person a narcissist or is it my fault? Double standards, hypocrisy, projecting stuff onto you. These are all big signs to look out for, big red flags,
Yes, they are.
And unfortunately, people don't realize, like I said.
I learned one thing, and it's funny because it was something that I've just started seeing in the last 2 weeks. When I, get deep in my head, which I found out that's a side effect of going through the abuse. And it's because I'd sit there and always try to figure out ways to get her to understand that I was there, that I wasn't trying to hurt her, that I was
Yeah.
trying to be understanding, that I was trying to give her space, room, and all that stuff. But with somebody that has, and I found out this can happen too, where you can have both personality disorders, both the borderline and the narcissistic together. And a lot of borderline will turn around, and even though you're saying something in a kind way, the way they bring it into their intellect, into their mind, into their conscious is twisted. It's a different perception. So if you're turning around explaining to them about, you're trying to help them, all those things, they take it as, oh, he thinks I'm a baby. They turn it around and somehow in their mind and take it as an attack. So there's literally no way to talk to these people. Not any way of reassurance.
There's absolutely not. There's absolutely not. There's only one thing I don't entirely agree with you on there, Ken, is that you can have BPD and NPD together. And this is a debate that's come up many times, like in my group and what have you. And, based on the research I've done, I actually do not think you can have both.
Okay.
There are absolutely a lot of similarities between the two.
I have heard of that too.
There are distinct differences. And I think even people who should know better, clinically trained diagnosticians, get it wrong, which to me is just unfathomable, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, what was I going to say? I lived with a guy who had borderline personality for 7 years, and he didn't have any of the narcissistic traits, but he had a lot of traits, like when he'd get angry, the eyes would go dark, he would get black eyes. And
Yep.
you often hear that referred to, the narcissist, when they get rage, there's the black eyes. I saw that many
Yes.
times. But there are key differences. One of the key differences with borderline personality, it stems from a fear of abandonment. And that absolutely fit my ex's background. I won't go into details now, but it absolutely fit his background to a T. And so the fear of abandonment, that rage, self-absorption, certainly they can be quite self-absorbed.
In my
But the biggest differential in my understanding of narcissistic personality disorder versus borderline is narcissists do not have empathy. But in my experience, borderlines absolutely do have empathy.
I've heard
They
that.
can be very flaky and all over the place. They also get often misdiagnosed, and people say, well, my partner or my ex or whatever has got narcissistic personality and bipolar disorder. I just don't think it's possible. And I used to, comment in the group with it, but I got so fed up with it.
Well,
And
see,
this is,
I had been
you
starting to
can't-
see a psychologist, and this
You can't have
psychologist was saying that you can have both. And that's the thing that makes it hard to kind of
Exactly.
understand and
You get-
track a lot of
you get
this
psycho-
is
yeah.
there's so
Yeah,
much
you get-
mixed information.
You get psychologists, you even get psychiatrists saying that you can have both. And
Yeah.
I've dug into this, and as far as I'm concerned, and the research I've done and my understanding is you freaking well cannot. But they get mishmashed up and confused by people who should frankly know better.
Well, it's just like, you get into the spiritual side of this, because a lot of these people are extremely spiritual. And what I mean is like tarot, the universe, which I have no problem against that. I'm all for balance. So I do believe in, religion, spiritual. I believe in the mechanical world. There's a balance that I think a lot of us need to have. And that's my perception on everything. If we can find balance in ourselves, we walk into a relationship, we have balance in a relationship as well. And it's, it's what works for me. And it's part of what I'm looking for, because I have old school values, but at the same point, I'm not just this guy that's going to walk up, give you everything and buy your love with my providing. You're going to I need someone that's going to reciprocate, all those things. That's,
Absolutely.
that brings up another thing, this feminist mindset. It's something I just noticed very covertly in my ex. This feminist mindset is slowly coming to the surface, and you can see it all the way through. And it's very unnerving, because you're turning around, you're looking at certain things, you're like, this isn't what I signed up for. This person knows that I didn't want this kind of a relationship. And then it's like she literally adapted to it just to hurt me.
Yeah. If you're against something, vehemently against something or passionately against something, and they know it, they will absolutely use that against you as well. And they will go and be that thing or pretend, because they aren't anything. They're just a reflection of who's in front of them at the time and who they're trying to impress. And then they turn into something completely different.
Exactly.
So that doesn't surprise me that she would put on the mantle of feminism just
Yeah.
to piss you off.
And
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why, when it comes to all these things, with seeing all these little, areas of attack, that I'm, one of the biggest things I'm good at is picking up patterns. Especially after having this 8-year relationship, I've picked up on patterns, and you can't get a pattern past me. The problem that I have is accepting what it is I seen. And that's what the
Right.
problem was. Now I don't so much. I've done a lot of my own self-healing.
Yeah.
I have my boundaries set in place. And as
Yeah.
time goes by, I'm setting more and more and more. And, one of the biggest things, folks, if you're out there, I don't care if you're male or female. If you're in it with a narcissist, at all costs, understand there's no trust. They don't trust you, and you don't trust them. They're going through their own form of trauma just as well. They just got discovered.
Yeah.
And they are running.
100%. You absolutely cannot trust them with anything.
Yes.
And
Protect yourself.
I still have people in the group saying, and I saw a few in the week, and I'm just thinking, oh dear God, they just don't know yet.
Yes,
I'm going to give it another. I'll give it another chance, because he or she promised A, B, and C, so I've got to give it one more go. And I'm thinking, yeah, you've got to give it one more go, because you've got to be convinced yourself that it's just
that's
not
the
going to
difference
work.
that I found out a little bit between a female narcissist and a male narcissist, or a female victim versus a male victim. A male will keep entering in to try to fix themselves. A lot of female victims will just disappear. They'll go, and usually the reverse hoovering don't work so well there, for some good time. Maybe it's just I'm focused, or see more men around me, because I have made a very strong point to make more male friends. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that I've just, my observation, at least from my area anyway. And I won't lie, I live in a pretty toxic area. It used to be a pretty nice farm community that's turned into a very bad drug community. And that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to get back out of here,
Get out of there.
But it was Noah's home.
That's the only thing you can do in that kind of a situation. If the environment becomes toxic like that,
yes,
get yourself out of there. Yeah, absolutely.
And
so you're probably seeing a lot more of that, because I think they are equally as bad as each other. I don't think one tries harder, like, as in women may try harder or men try harder.
And I'll tell you,
they're
something
toxic.
I've noticed, there are a lot of, and that's where you got to be careful, especially folks, if you're out there on TikTok, social media, and all that stuff, be careful who it is you're going to and watching and getting information from. Sitting back, watching a few of these people that are on out there, there's literally narcissistic people putting out information as their own cover.
Oh, there absolutely is. There absolutely is.
All over the place.
Yeah, there is, for sure. And there's also a lot of scammers.
Yes.
I've got one. There's one particular guy on there. What's his name? Sean Boland. Hold on. What's he called? He's actually hilarious. He's also a very, very smart guy. I was going to talk to you about him, Ken. Mm-hmm. And I know about him because one of the admin guys in my group, Edgar, he shared one in our chat.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll have a look. And it was actually really good. It was called Nature and Shit. Now, he swears like a trooper. F-bombs all over the place. But there's something about the way he does it that it's not offensive. Yes. in the way it would be. And on he's got a website. He's got some fabulous sort of digital stuff. You'll have to look him up. He's very funny. He's got a unique voice, a unique style. And he's very, very clever. And he talks about PTSD and veterans a lot. He talks about a lot of things. But what's his bloody, hold on a sec. What am I looking for? He's got a huge, massive following. He's got something like, I don't know, 3 million bloody followers.
And, while you're searching that, something else I really, really noticed across the
while I find
board is you watch all these people that are out there that, I understand being angry about what's been done with you. And maybe I've done some deeper healing than what I needed to, but or maybe it's just, getting back to who I am, but I've always been a pretty forgiving person. So when I look at my ex, I turn around and I see trauma. through all the healing. It doesn't mean I have to be a part of that person, but I see a lot of people on out there right now, especially that are just, they recognize it. They're out there trauma dumping, and it's just absolute anger. And it's one of the things I see is rage coming from my ex. She's using that anger, of course. She's using key little points trying to make it sound like I'm the narcissist. And that's where that keeps coming. You just want control. No, I don't care about control. You do you,
Yeah.
But that anger, and it seems like I see this all over the internet. With a lot of these people that are doing this trauma healing for narcissism or whatever, even the spirituality side. They are some angry people. And I've almost wondering, if that's another aspect of someone's covering something up. So I just sit back and it's like, you know what? Going through it, you tend to look at everything and everybody, and they're all narcissists,
Yeah.
So I just sit back and be quiet. But I have made some serious observations where I've looked at the feminist mindset, and I'm sorry, the feminist mindset carries a huge
It's toxic.
amount of narcissistic traits, and the first thing that they do,
it's massively toxic. I told you, we've had the conversation, you and I, before, about I have absolutely no time for feminism or feminists, and I just
they destroy men and they destroy themselves.
When I first understood what it was, something about it just made me feel like this is not something I want to be a part of ever. To me, it's like segregation. It's as bad as racism, sexism. It's the same bullshit nonsense. I have no time for it. So if I see any of that come across my social media, whatever, I'm very much out of there. I do not get involved in any of that. But yeah, it's hugely toxic, and mostly it's men hating. Most of them are men haters, and I've just got no time for it. It's just not how I roll.
That's where I've gotten. And it's funny because, like I said, I put those two things together, and later on I was like, oh, my ex, she's displaying all of those feminist traits all of a sudden of, just toxic boundaries, I guess you'd say, within themselves. And the funny thing is the way they claim it is it's freedom. Their freedom to go do whatever it is they want, however they want. And they're always grasping on that to get rid of accountability, to self-gaslight, to all these little ticks that are narcissistic ticks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm like you. I stay away from it.
Yeah, and you've got to be so careful, because the guy that got us talking on this particular one, his name is Sean Boland. Sean Boland. And his handle is Rusty Eyeball, which is very strange, but it's memorable. Now, he has a lot of videos. He's got over 2.2 million likes. I've got him here on, I don't know if you can see this.
Is it TikTok?
It's TikTok, yeah. You have to find him in TikTok. He's actually, he's very entertaining. He has over 342,000 followers. So
wow.
huge following. So I've liked lots of his videos, and then all of a sudden I've seen another one come up, and I've thought, oh, it's Sean again, and I liked it, and blah blah. And then yesterday I had a message from Sean Boland, and I've looked, and can I get a response, please? And I thought, what the hell is he messaging me for? And a response to what? And then I looked more closely, because I thought, I'm pretty damn sure Sean is not sending me a message. And somebody has cloned part of his profile, so it looks identical, except the count. He's got like 8,000 followers, and I thought, well, I know for a fact Sean's got way more than that.
Yeah.
So he's managed to get 8,000 followers, and all he's shared. Then when I started scrolling down, because the real Sean you can scroll down and down like you. He's got tons and tons and tons of. I scroll down and I get down like about 9 or 12, and then it stops. There's no more. So somehow he's cloning. It's really easy to do, and I noticed it before. I didn't take as much notice because this is very recent, and I like this guy. I like his videos. But Richard Grannon, because Richard Grannon is very, very well known for his work with narcissists and narcissistic abuse recovery. He's got a big, huge following. I've been following him for years and years. And I'm looking at all these and I'm thinking, hang on, so somebody else is just posting his videos and getting this big following. So an awful lot of scammy rubbish going on, unfortunately. There's also a lot of good stuff in TikTok, like your stuff and my stuff and lots of other people. But the message to any people watching who are on TikTok, just be careful that you check carefully and thoroughly who you think you're dealing with or watching, because it may be that it's not who you think it is.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And something I want to share with you, Maria. You've been such an inspiration to me through this. You've helped me out so much.
Oh, bless. Thank
and
you.
I know, it's somehow, somewhere, I've always been this guy that likes to help people, and I've always dug strong into psychology. I'm natural at it. I like it. I like dissecting, people's habits.
You've got a flair for it.
So I haven't told nobody, and this will be the first time I've came out about it, but I have actually, for the last month and a half, 2 months, I dove into becoming a trauma support coach.
Oh, I think you should go for it. Absolutely. I think you've got all the right kind of skills for it. Yeah. So with the training, you'd be awesome.
I'm somebody that's been able to put myself in a lot of people's shoes. Now, unfortunately, that's been my toxic trait too, because I tend to put myself in people's shoes way more than what I should, and then decide to walk away, where a lot of times I just stick it out. And that's what landed me where I'm at. That's what put me in trauma. But, the blessing is, and it, maybe it's just who I am. I don't look at it as a curse no more. I don't look at it as a trauma no more. I look at it as a stepping stone into a healing direction that I always needed but missed.
Yeah.
I know I wasn't perfect in my marriage. I know all those things, but I also know that my person triggered me, and they did it on purpose. They did it out of lack of respect, care, understanding towards me, and they didn't have proper values or boundaries. They had toxic boundaries that would be toxic to almost anybody out there.
Yeah, and they do it to hurt you as well, deliberately, which it's just nasty, it's just nasty.
I mean, for instance, I would not, who would want to, when you're committed in a committed relationship, you're supporting each other, you're supposed to be a unit, and who would want to talk to their exes that are talking sexually to them about their past and wanting to meet up, and the person saying, we can meet up too. Oh, by the way, my husband can see this. He's got he can see all this stuff. To me, that's a warning saying, hey,
massively.
Push, we'll talk later.
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally disrespectful.
That's the whole thing is, like, for instance, I went to go talk to my ex-wife about this, and she's, it took 2 weeks to get her to understand that, well, I don't like you talking to him. And the whole time she's telling me I'm insecure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, look at that. Look how wonderfully they bounce it back on when it's your fault,
Yes.
Their inappropriate behavior, they're not capable of taking accountability because they just have no respect for other people.
No, and it's just a matter of respect. It's not a matter of insecurity. I didn't like the fact that he was disrespecting her. He was disrespecting me, and by her gaslighting me, she disrespected me. So she joined in.
But they cannot see that. This is the thing, Ken. They cannot see that.
No.
It's your fault. You are disrespecting her. You're insecure. You're trying to cramp my style.
Exactly.
You're not letting me express myself, or whatever other nonsense they want to come out with.
Yes.
Always
I'm sorry,
about
but when you're in a committed relationship, I care about my person's feelings. I care about how they feel, and sometimes I may do it. I may not notice that I do it, and I'll have that sincere apology and change. And that was one of the biggest things too. And there's probably many on out there. Anytime something like this would happen, anything that was toxic would happen, my person could only take and make a 2-week change, maybe a month tops, and then right back to another toxic cycle that she'd find just to take and get back at me, or just because she couldn't maintain. So it was one of those boundaries. I won't enter into nothing no more unless somebody can maintain, and it's going to take time.
And we talked briefly before, it's a huge subject, but boundaries are so very important, particularly going forward in new relationships. And you've got to know what your boundaries are, what your deal breakers are. We have talked before about these, but it always comes up again and again because it's so damn important. Yes. And you've got to know what they are. And then when you start to see them being smashed and you're not being respected and you're not getting what you're giving, what you're putting into the relationship, then you need to be really worried and decide, well, am I going to stay in this or get out?
And see, that's where my boundaries lacked. It was all my fault. I take full responsibility because I'm responsible for what comes into my life. I'm responsible for my choices. And, not seeing those red flags because I was never really taught those red flags. I was raised by a single mom that kind of cycled through some guys here and there. I mean, not absolutely, destroying herself, but the guys that she was seeing, just, they weren't family people. They didn't know how to
Right.
take a
Yeah.
guy like me, a young boy like me, and teach him
And
boundaries, and
nurture
she
you
didn't know
or
how to teach
anything.
me boundaries either.
Yeah.
And
So you
that's
never
where,
learned them. And that's the thing.
yep.
And if you haven't been taught them, how can you know? So then you've got to fumble through life until you figure it out on your own
And that's where
by
I'm
trial and
teaching my
error and
children.
pain, which,
I'm
yeah,
teaching my children because I want to break that
yeah,
generational cycle. I don't want them
yeah,
to end up where I'm at. I lead
yeah,
by example, and that's one of the biggest drives in my
absolutely.
life to do better is I lead for my children. My
Yeah,
children,
fantastic.
everything I do,
Yeah,
every part of growth was for my family. It used to be for
yeah,
her. She didn't see it. That's not my worry. But now
yeah,
I've got my children that need to heal from this.
yeah,
And that's the
absolutely.
hardest part in the whole thing.
But you can make such a, yeah, of course it is, but you can make such a big difference to your children's lives by being that role model that you never had.
Yes. And I'll tell you,
And
Maria,
because you
it's
know
been
all the flags and all the signs and you've learned so much, you can teach them.
yes. And, once you get past that healing point to where you can start getting your energy back, you're not like
Yeah.
stuck on a couch feeling like telling yourself, I want to go do something, but man, I can't get off this couch.
Just not having the motivation. Yeah.
Yes, and that
Yeah.
can last for a while. Meanwhile, you're telling yourself all these things. But the nice part is I have been able to enter into a world where not only are my children my motivation, but mine. And I've had to sit down and explain to my son, my oldest boy, what's gone on, which he witnessed a lot of it, and tell him Dad is recovering and Dad will do better, and I'll get more energy. I'm here,
Yeah.
and I sat down, I played video games with them, stuff like that, but it's like now our
Yeah.
new thing is we're going to get ready to start going to the gym. Well, Dad could
Oh,
use that. Dad could use that. Let
yeah.
me tell you what.
Yeah.
So,
Excellent. Oh,
but it's a
it's
good structure
fantastic
for
that
him.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's fabulous that you're able to really work on building that bond with your son as well. How old are your kids, Ken?
I've got a 2.5-year-old, a 15-year-old. I've got two daughters. One is 24. The other one is 21 now. So they're growing
Right.
out of
So
the house.
two grown ups and two still dependent. Yeah.
Yep. And then a
And the two
previous
out of the
ex.
house, that's from your previous relationship. Yeah.
Now the 2.5-year-old's from my next, the narcissistic ex.
Yeah.
But
The
I do
recent.
have a
Yeah. I thought that.
24-year-old boy that lives with me that's a full-grown adult. He's cognitive. That's from
Right.
my ex before him. She had all the kids taken away. And after being his dad for 13 years, I didn't have a good structure. I love the kids and I didn't step away from him. I'm still dad. He lives with me. He's a good
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah.
He helps out
Yeah.
tremendously. He's been dad's support where dad supported him. And
Right.
it's been
Right.
amazing. Good kids.
Yeah.
But that's me. I
Yeah.
got a big, huge heart.
Good for you. I know you do. I know you do, sweetheart. Oh, bless your heart.
But
Well,
we
we
are
could
hitting,
maybe talk. Yeah, we are hitting. It's half past now, so we're very late tonight. So do you want to mention that we're going to start doing this a bit later anyway, going forward?
yes.
I've got to wrap up now.
Yeah, we're going to start taking an approach in this. I think we decided on what,
7:30. Seven's a bit
7:30.
too early.
Yep, and that will be what
7:30.
time for you? What's your time zone?
Oh no, that'll be 7:30 for me. So that'll be what, 6 hours earlier for you? Because right now for me it's 8:30 in the evening.
It's 8:30 in the evening. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yes, that'll be, I'll have to do the math, folks, but it's going to be about an hour
It's
later.
when you put it's when you put your 2.5-year-old down for his nap. So
Yeah. So
then he's safely down. Then you've got an hour while he's having a nap, and we'll try and keep them to sort of about an hour, not too much longer. Yeah, that way it works out well.
and it does. It's I will tell you, it's one of the things I love about this software is I can do these from anywhere. I can be
Yeah, you
anywhere
can.
and do
Yeah.
this podcast, and it looked just like I'm
Yeah.
sitting at home. So,
Excellent.
but
Good job.
well, Maria, I greatly appreciate it, and so everyone knows, Maria is going to accompany me in a couple of the healing podcasts that I'm yet to even do my first one on. And it's one of the reasons, one of the things that I wanted her to approach on the first one with me. We want to help you guys learn the process of rediscovering yourself, reestablishing healthy boundaries, reestablishing self-confidence and self-love. It's all the processes that help you recover from any type of abuse and or just a cycle that you can't break in life. I mean, maybe you're having lots of unsuccessful relationships. The first place you look is inside you. I don't care if you're male. I don't care if you're female. This affects
Absolutely.
both of us the
Yeah.
same, both genders the
Yeah.
same way. You
Yeah.
want to be successful. You want a successful relationship. You have to look inside yourself first. So if you can, please join us, on Wednesdays, same time. And we will, a couple of them she's going to jump in and help me out with and kind of get the ball rolling and, tell, to give us her perspective. And I'll be offering also other guests. So one of the big thing I wanted to tell everybody before we close on out tonight is, folks, if you're having a hard time going through this and you are thinking about it's not worth it no more, you're just thinking you want to end yourself, please reach out and get help.
Absolutely.
I've been there. And there's a lot of help out there. I know when you're going through narcissistic abuse, it feels like you're so alone that you can't trust nobody. And it's a very, very dark state. It feels like nobody understands, and a lot of people don't in today's age. But there are people out there who don't. If you look in the comment or in the links in my description, there are plenty of places where you can reach out to Maria. You can also reach out to me here. There's also Facebook groups. Another thing is I'm fixing to build a U.S.-based narcissistic abuse and recovery group for both male and female. So please don't be afraid to join. So it's one of the things I noticed that there isn't very many of them over here. And I want to take and make sure that I'm going to kind of, if it's okay with Maria, because it's kind of stealing her idea, just putting it over here in the U.S.
No, not at all.
Basically what you
Not
have.
at all. You need the more awareness can be spread, the better. So are you thinking of doing that, like having a live meetup where you are, or how are you planning on doing that?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and just do the Facebook groups for now. My certificates should be coming soon to where I can actually apply myself as a narcissistic abuse recovery coach, or just a recovery coach, trauma recovery. And once I do that, I'm going to start kind of trying to go around and doing different things to get the awareness out, help some people heal, some different seminars, different places like that. But this podcast will always come first. With this podcast, I can reach out to everybody that wants to tune in. So
absolutely.
I have the biggest reach.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, fantastic.
And people can take and be
the
anonymous.
More awareness, because there are so many hundreds of thousands of people out there who need help. So the more you can spread awareness, the more we can do to help that, move that forward, the better. So I totally get it. I'm totally 100% behind you. Absolutely.
Well, Maria, I appreciate you joining me yet again, and we will see Maria.
Pleasure, always.
And we'll see Maria and myself again next week, a little bit later in the evening. I will start doing some promotional videos on out there to take and give everybody the new times. And God bless everybody.
All right, take care. Bye now.
Too. Bye-bye. So again, if you're on out there, if you are having a hard time, please reach out to Maria. Reach out to myself. Reach out to somebody. If you're thinking about suicide, please go get help. There is help. I don't care if you're my ex on the other side of this line. I don't care who you are. There are better things in life. You just have to look inside yourself. And the first step into healing is to reach out. Nobody can reach out for you unless you put your hand out. We're all here. There's, all kinds of programs that will help you through this dark time. There's all kinds of people that have gone through the same. And the world of, trauma and, toxic abuse and narcissistic abuse and all that stuff is spreading. It's becoming more and more well known because it's more prominent than what we see. And what we've noticed, it's one of those things that as time has progressed, we're kind of going, aha. So please, if you're thinking about things such as suicide, please reach out to the suicide hotlines. Please call 911. Please do any of those things. Talk to somebody. Folks, with that being said, thank you for joining our podcast, and thanks to those who have followed and, have interacted with us. If you please can, share these podcasts. share these pages